Every night a guest stays at Shamwari. The conservation levy actually helps us to fund our entire running costs, from fuel to fetching animals, the medicines involved. You don't often understand the ripple effect that tourism can create for both humans but also animals.
The interesting thing, having been here right from the beginning, was thinking back on the early days when this area wasn't even recognized as a wildlife destination. The early settlers came, they destroyed all the wildlife here to make way for agriculture. So our objective was to re-establish a heritage that used to be here.
I manage the Wildlife Rehabilitation Centre, and we take on any sick, injured or orphaned wildlife with the main goal of releasing them back into the wild. The patients we receive, the orphaned or abandoned, there is emotional trauma that they do arrive with. They mourn the loss of their mothers. And that's why we value companion animals so much, because they really do help with that lack of, social connection they used to have. When it comes to feeding our patients, it's always a bit of a challenge when you have your orphaned or abandoned young animals. They're still completely reliant on milk. Gradually, we teach them onto a more hands-off feeding approach, where we have feeding structures, and then gradually we transition them to drinking milk out of a bucket.
We're not only working on our piece of land, but we're working further afield. The vultures, for example, the oxpeckers, those are animals that were introduced to the area by us, who are now flying the Eastern Cape for.
VULPRA is a vulture conservation organisation that's dedicated to the conservation and preservation of African vultures. We undertake rehabilitation, and after rehabilitation, if the birds are not releasable, we then incorporate them into our captive breeding program, and their offspring are then released. And I think that is a really beautiful story, because it allows non-releasable birds that are lost to the wild population to actually contribute to their wild species survival. To be involved in a grassroots organisation and to see it succeed from when I first started to where it is today is the most incredible feeling, and we cannot save a species if we're not emotionally connected.
One of the most rewarding facets of the last 30 years is having seen how the animals we reintroduced have successfully integrated themselves into the environment, into the ecosystem, and found their niches.
Wildlife rehab centres' success rate on average is considered 30%. Fortunately, our success rate has been well in the 60s for the last 2 years. We're very grateful for that. Every year we continue with our practice. We're almost learning to improve our ways, to better our approach to hands-off wildlife rehabilitation.